Well, that's a wrap for the 23-24 season for the Calgary Flames, ending the season with a record of 38 wins, 39 losses, and 5 ties for a grand total of 81 points. Damn near 500. What do you think, Dylan?
Pretty much exactly what I expected. I didn't expect us to be top 5 in the league. I didn't expect us to be top 5 in the draft lottery rankings or anything like that. So this is pretty much kind of exactly what I figured, right around the, 10th-ish spot as far as draft lottery is concerned. So I think we're at 9th. So
yeah. Yep. Continuing our mushy middle, finishing 11th in the West.
Not surprising.
Screwing ourselves out of another decent draft pick. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what the future holds for the Flames, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can't be too upset. Personally, as much as I want a top pick and all that type of stuff, I'm still the type of guy who I don't want the players and the coaches to purposely throw games, right? And I don't think there was a couple games there throughout the last maybe 10 or 12 games where they maybe didn't put out their best effort, but I don't think they actually threw any games. And there was a few really good, entertaining games near the end of the season there.
Mm-hmm.
So can't really complain.
It was good that they started getting some good looks on the power play, and just making advancements. There was a lot of new members this year, and it was good to see them start to gel at times, and hopefully we've got something to build off of.
And that's the whole thing, right? Like all season, pretty much the entire fan base bitched and moaned about Savard, which is, well deserved. He did not make our power play very good. Not that he was given the personnel to make the power play that good, but it still shouldn't have been as bad as it was most of the season. But then Kuzmenko came in, kind of sparked it, and everybody seemed to really gel on the power play over the last 10 games, maybe 8 games, something like that. The last couple of weeks, anyways. There was a point there where we were first in the league over the last 2 weeks in power play percentage. So hopefully that carries over to next year.
Yeah, because we were sitting at like 14.6 or whatever it was like 4 or 5 weeks ago. So that was pretty discouraging. And then all of a sudden we made a couple of tweaks to the lineup and, brought in guys like Kuzmenko and and obviously, having Sharangovich all year has been good on that spot too. But it just looked and felt different, right? It looked like they were the players themselves made a change. At least that's my opinion. They kind of took the ball and ran with it and decided what they wanted to see out of the power play. Because leading up to that point, it was, what do you call it? Dog shit?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And I don't know, honestly, like you look at some other teams and you wonder how the fuck can you be any worse than Calgary on the power play for the majority of the season anyways, up until the last couple of weeks. But, I really thought that once they put Uyghur up there too and he stayed, I don't understand how you can have a guy challenging for top spot in the league for goals by a defenseman and not have him on the power play. Like, especially when he actually seemed to be good whenever you gave him a shot and then you just moved him over for somebody else constantly. Kind of confusing to me, but then they did. And, he proved that he probably should at least get a little run to start the season next year on the power play.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I like this comment, right? It's what do you looking forward to seeing what we can get out of Kuzmenko. When we first brought him in, I really thought it would be a great trade piece. But I tell you what, I really like his game. We've been without a goal scorer for such a long time now, but his ability to make plays, it makes him even better. Right? I'm really excited with the opportunity to see what we can either sign him to, or what the next move is with that kid.
And he might be 28. A lot of people say he's 28. He's maybe not the age that you want for the future rebuild here in Calgary. But at the same time, the way I look at it is, like you said, we need a goal scorer. We need a dynamic player. We don't really have any other dynamic players. We have maybe one other good, goal scorer in Sharon Govich, if he can be the same next year as he is this year.
For sure.
And as much as you want to rebuild and you want to get those good draft picks and all that, you also need to put butts in seats. And Andrei Kuzmenko and his high skill level and his, quite frankly, hilarious interviews and shit like that, all that type of stuff gets fans engaged and makes them want to buy tickets. So that's huge too, right?
Well, that's right. And he's got that infectious attitude as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's always got a smile on his face, or at least, pumping up the team in some way. And I really like that about him.
Mm-hmm. Our buddy Matt's asking, who's our MVP? I'm going to go with Mark Savard. No, I'm kidding. Honestly, probably Weegar.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Weegar's going to be my pick. It probably would have been Markstrom up until about 2 weeks ago. And if Kadri didn't have that absolutely terrible start with absolutely no accountability, I would put him in there. But it's got to be Weegar. He was fantastic all year. Good at leading the team, scores goals, makes great defensive plays every game. I thought he kind of limited his mistakes this year. So, who's your pick?
Well, I'm actually kind of mad at you, because I honestly thought you were going to go with Zari because of how much you've been pumping him since the beginning of the season. Because I was going to take Weegar. So,
you can take Weegar too.
I mean, yes, I will pick Weegar. I think he's had an incredible year, both defensively and obviously offensively. He's really taken some steps this season, which is a lot of fun. But defensively, he really stood up once we got rid of a couple of our top four there in Hanifin and Tanev. He really did well with that extra ice time, and he's just developed into an incredible leader. I would say on and off the ice.
Yeah, I agree. And as far as your comment on Zari there, Zari was a great surprise. He was a great, call up and really stepped up. Been a really good center the last few games, but I can't really call him the MVP. He was great, but I don't think he was, driving play or leading the team or anything. He's a rookie. How often is your rookie your MVP? Very, very, very rarely, right? Nothing against Zari. I love Zari all year, but I think Weegar takes that.
Unless you're Makar, I suppose, right?
Yeah. Our buddy Greg here, he says, who's your surprise player of the year? For him, it's Kadri and Coleman. And that's actually big coming from him, because he's a Colorado Avalanche fan, and was kind of telling us, talking Kadri up a little bit when we got him.
Yeah. You going to go first, or you want me to go first?
Oh, no, you take it.
I think I do agree. Both Kadri and Coleman, they both had great years. Obviously, 30 and damn near 30 goals from those guys is great output for them. For me, the biggest surprise is it's going to be Martin Pospisil. I was kind of excited to see him play, but I didn't realize how much he had in him as far as just getting involved and being just such a pain in the ass for so many players that he's playing against. He's been a lot of fun to watch this year.
Talking about butts and seats, right? That kid's going to put lots of butts in seats, and he would have been my pick too. For surprise, I mean, I have to. For surprise, I was relatively surprised that Zari came up and did as well as he did, and that was going to be my pick. But I had more faith in Zari to start his call up and to start his career than I did in Pospisil. And Pospisil coming up and playing as well as he did, and he finished the year, the last couple games on the first line, like fucking great. Martin Pospisil, you're totally right.
And yes,
No,
obviously
Adam,
he
not
does
so
have to. Come on, now. Killing me. I do think he does need to rein that in a bit. Obviously, I don't know. I mean, play on the edge, and I don't want him to change his game that much, but there's got to be a little bit. You got to be using your head a little bit better when you're going into the boards. Is pretty much all I can say about it. That they're calling that stuff, so do I want him to stop it? No. Should he stop it? Probably yes.
I'd like
Maybe rein it in,
reel it in
10, 15, 20%, right? Like not take it out of your game completely, but definitely get it under control.
That's just it. And it's hard to get a guy like that to step it down just a little bit on the physicality, especially when that's the main part of his game. But, I'm surprised he didn't get suspended for that last hit he laid on Josh Morrissey. But if he keeps doing that, he's going to get suspended several times a year, and we can't have that. But I do think he's been great. Who do you think will be moved in the off season from Matt? I think Markstrom will get moved, mostly because he's going to want to be moved. I don't even really think Conroy wants to move him that much, but I feel like it just makes the most sense right now. And Andrew Mangiapane, I'd love Kadri to get moved, but I don't think he's going to. I don't think it's going to be worth it in the long run to move him right now. But Andrew Mangiapane, I just think both the player and the team need a fresh look. He's been straight up bad for 2 years now. And that's, I don't think we'll get a great return on him. Either it's going to be a player who's struggling just like he is, or it's going to be like a 5th or 6th round pick or something like that. But I think it'll be worth it because it'll open up a spot for someone like Peltier or whoever else might be coming up. Even Coronado needs more ice time. I think he proved in the last 10 games he's got what it takes here. So who do you think's getting moved, Chris?
I mean, Mangiapane makes the most sense, obviously. Just because there's so many people that can take his place right now. I don't, everybody knows what I think of Mangiapane as a player, so I'm going to leave that out of this conversation for the moment. But I mean, I do think it's time for him to give it a shot somewhere else and move on. But
so I'm not sure why Kyle didn't join us. We actually asked him to come on the show with us.
Very disappointing, Kyle.
I'm very disappointing. But he's in the comment section. So let's answer one of his questions. He said, thoughts on who you'd have play with Zari next season. You want to take this one first, Chris?
With Zari, we're keeping him at center, right?
Well, that's up to you.
Okay, well, I am. I would like to see him playing on the line with Sharon Govich. On the other wing, who do we go?
I'm going Sharon Govich and Huber, though.
It's exactly what I was thinking, but then I just feel like that's two playmakers feeding one guy, which is obviously going to be good because it doesn't matter what corner it goes into. There's a good chance that they come out of there with the puck. But yeah, I could go with that. I wouldn't be upset with that at all.
Yeah, and I think that especially Zari and Huberto have shown, maybe not this last game here, but over the past pretty much ever since Zari's been moved over to center, I think Huberto and Zari have shown that they have some chemistry, and when you find chemistry with Huberto, I mean, you got to keep it together because it's been like pulling teeth. It's been the bane of the fan base, honestly, over the past couple of years. And Sharon Govich has a little bit of chemistry with Huberto too. So, that's my thought, anyways.
Hey, you know what, Chad? I agree with you 100%. Everybody, hit the like. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you, Chad.
Totally agree. Matt just letting us all know Wolf, Coronado, Klapka, and Solovyov all sent down to the Wranglers after the game. Totally makes sense because they've all got to ramp up for the AHL playoffs. And let's be honest, Coronado was well over a point a game player when he was in the AHL. Wolf is an all-star AHL goaltender. Klapka's a top liner, or at least at some points was a top liner. Solovyov's one of their best defensemen. So love that. I'm thinking about maybe trying to get an AHL TV package so I can watch some of the Wranglers playoff games.
Right. It's not a bad idea.
Mm-hmm. And no, Greg, I'm not gonna. I don't cheer for people because they're from Calgary, even if it's Cale Makar. I have no desire to cheer for the Avalanche at all, unless they're playing the Oilers. At which point, I'm really just cheering against the Oilers.
Yeah. If you end up playing Vancouver in the next round, okay, fine, go Avs. But yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I don't cheer for a team just because they're in Canada. In fact, I believe that makes me cheer for them less for the most part.
Yeah, me too. The only Canadian team that's playing right now that I could stomach winning is Winnipeg. I'm not going to go out and cheer for them, but they're the team that I would hate winning the least.
Right.
Kyle asking, what do you think is going to happen with the goaltending situation? Like I said earlier, I think Markstrom's getting moved out. Honestly, I think Markstrom will get moved out. Hypothetically, let's say it's New Jersey, they're giving us Allen back in a trade because almost no matter who, let's say it's Ottawa, they're going to give you Korpisalo back. Whoever it is, you're getting a goalie back most likely. Maybe not much, but a slightly to much worse goalie, a tandem goalie who can work with Wolf and give Wolf starts, but also work with Wolf to help him get better. And I think Vladar, honestly, is getting claimed off waivers coming out of camp next year. I don't think anyone's going to trade for him. I think he's getting claimed off waivers in camp next year.
Yeah, could be. I don't know. It's hard to say, right? I still think there's a market for him. Not nothing lucrative, that's for sure. If we can get, a fourth or something out of it, then fine. But yeah, if he's not traded, I could see him being claimed for sure. I don't know who we should target as a goaltender because I mean, given what I've seen, whenever Markstrom is skating towards Wolf after a game, there's not a lot of love there that you've seen Markstrom give other goalies that he's had as a backup. So I don't know that there's a really good relationship there. So I don't know that I want him to be the one even mentoring Wolf in any way.
That's interesting. I've never really noticed that, but I guess saying that, I haven't noticed that there's been a big friendship there or anything like that, right?
No, I mean I'm assuming it's not a bad relationship, but like whenever he would skate towards Vladar, whether he played good or bad, it didn't matter. He always had an emotion about it when he went in there. But when he's going in there with Wolf, he just kind of goes there, taps ahead, and he skates off, right?
It's no Allmark and Swayman style thing, right? Either
no,
obviously
not. Yeah,
but I
don't know. I don't know who we should target for that, right? Because we're going to want somebody that can mentor him, as well as take 50 to mean, at least 50% of the starts.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say 38 to between 38 and 50 starts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's a big range, but that's the way I look at it. Um, Ardash says, "Do you keep Klapka with a role on this team next year? Seems like a bigger version of Pospisil, who is actually allowed to fight." Um, Personally, he's got to earn it. He scored his first goal this game, which was nice to see, and it was a determined goal. He lost the puck, got it back, shot it twice, and finally scored. Um,
Yeah.
he's big. He's tough-ish. Maybe not in the fighting category, but he's certainly tough. He's hard to move. I like the profile of the player, especially on the fourth line. But I think that he's got to earn it. I don't think you just give it to him, right? I think he's got a future in the league, whether it be as a fourth liner or a 13th forward. But I think he's got a future in the league. I'd like to see him, get 10, 15, 20 games with the Flames. I don't see him being a full-timer, but I would love to be proven wrong, because with that size, if he can prove he can be an NHLer, I think every Flames fan would love that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, he played 6 games this year, got 1 goal. His average ice time was pretty low at it was like 6 minute 45 seconds. So, I mean, does he have a full-time role? I don't think so. But if he plays half the games on the fourth line, I'm not going to be upset about it.
Right. I guess we'll talk about this. I'm not huge on talking about the draft right now because so far to go still. But Matt's asking, assuming Calgary picks 9 in the draft, give us your top 3 targets. I mean, it's hard to say right now because there's so many different lists going on. Everybody's projected. Everybody outside Celebrini, honestly, is projected all over the place. I've seen Demidov at 2. I've seen Demidov at 11. If Demidov's available, fucking take him. If Berkeley Catton is available, take him. If Caden Lindstrom is available, take him. If none of those guys are available, maybe move on to Iginla. But it's so hard because I've seen so many of these players mixed up. I have no idea where anybody's going.
It's been a weird one. You look at every guy that's paid to make these decisions and to make these guesses. They all have a different list. Outside of the number 1 pick, it's all over the map. It's super tough to predict this one. Who's going to be available at the 9th spot compared to even what the NHL has for a list is. I mean, I don't know.
Anton Saleyev, I think is how you say his name. He was ranked 2nd or 3rd overall for most of the season, and then over the last month he's fallen to 20. We just don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Justin's asking this is a loaded question, but which Flames do you think will be back next season and which ones won't? For me, the only ones that won't, I know we touched on this earlier, but I think the ones that won't are going to be Markstrom and Mangiapane. I don't think they're going to make a whole bunch of trades or anything like that, player-wise. But those are the 2 I'm pretty sure are gone. I think everybody else is back. Oliver Shillington's the only guy who's expiring, I believe. And from all accounts, he's got a great relationship with the Flames, and the Flames really, want to bring him back. And from what I've heard, they're working on a very similar contract to what he's already on. But other than that, nobody else is expiring. and all the players who people want to trade, whether it be Chris and I with Kadri or whether it be everybody else with Huberdeau. Like these guys are on long-term trade protected deals. Very, very hard to move.
No, no, exactly. Coming off the books this year, we've got Klapka who's an RFA next year. AJ Greer is a UFA. Does he come back? I mean, who knows?
I wouldn't hate it, but
Shillington
also,
would be. I wouldn't hate it either. I
yeah,
think he's a great role player. Shillington's being the the kind of the top guy to look at when it comes to this being a UFA. Does he sign again? It's probably right, just given kind of how everything's played out this season for him. And then you have obviously have Dennis Gilbert, which he's a UFA. Do they sign him? I doubt it. Maybe.
I
Who
I don't
knows?
mind Gilbert, but like they brought in like 3 seventh defensemen here. Do we need another like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a log jam on that one. So here's a question for you. What do you think Dustin Wolf's contract looks like for next year? Moving on.
Who asked that? Where's that?
Chris Ruback right here.
Oh, you're asking it. Okay. Sorry, I thought that one was from the comment section. For me, because he's a restricted free agent, right?
Yeah.
And here's something a lot of people don't know, because usually guys who are coming off of their restricted free agency are require waivers, are not waiver exempt, but Wolf is going to be waiver exempt, so you can send him back down and back up throughout the season if you need to. Now, I don't see that happening very many times, maybe once, but I could see him. I could see him doing like a 1 or 2 year at 1 million, maybe 950, but I kind of feel like he's a player that believes in himself enough that he would rather do a short-term deal to get paid later.
Yeah, that's fair.
What do you think?
I think it's going to be less than $1 million again, maybe a 2-year deal. We need to see what he's truly made of next year, giving him some games and I think it would be a sign of good faith to at least give him a 2-year for now, and then tell him it's up to him to add 3-4 million to that for the one following.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Chad asking, what does Huberdeau need to do to become the player he was a couple years ago? Well, the player he was a couple years ago was a 115-point player. He will never, ever be that again. Now, the player he was several years before that, which was between, an 80 and a 90-point pace type of a player. I think I'm not sure if that's attainable. I think a 70, 75-point pace is attainable for why did I say Nazem? For Jonathan Huberdeau, especially if he's getting the ice time and he's got the players with him that he's got chemistry with, and he's showing some chemistry with Sharon Govich, like we said before, with Zari. If he has a sniper like Sharon Govich and a smart player like Zari on his line, and they can continue to build off the chemistry they've got over the past little while here, I'm optimistic about. I'm going to go down a little bit, 65 points. I'm hoping more, obviously, but I don't think we're ever going to see 80, 85, 90, 115-point Huberdeau ever again.
No, it certainly doesn't look that way, right? I mean, a lot of that had to do with who he was feeding pucks to and whatnot, obviously with 85 assists, right? leading up to that, I guess he did have a 92 point season back in 18-19, but yeah, I think likely where he's going to be next year, given maybe a stable set of line mates that he can have for a good chunk of the year. I'd be happy if he's sitting at 75. That'd be great.
I'd be
Obviously he
happy,
needs to get out of the 50s like he's been for the last two seasons. Um, yeah, 75 to 85 would be perfect in my opinion.
I'd be happy with that. I'm not going to predict that, but I'll be happy with that.
Yeah,
for sure.
agreed. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable throwing money on that because we all know, you know, anything can happen, but I just don't see. I don't know. Does he have another in the 50s year? God, I hope not.
I hope not too, but I guess we'll wait and see. I mean, it's good to command the tank, I suppose, but other than that,
Yeah.
Matt's full of questions today. He's asking who's a player on the Wranglers who you think will be pushing for a spot on the big club in training camp. I consider Klapka on the Wranglers, so I'll go with Klapka.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
maybe?
actually think we have players like. I don't think we have many players who are pushing. I think Jeremy Poirier could push. I don't think anybody's pushing to start the season. I think there'll be players pushing throughout the season, but I don't think anybody's pushing who's not already on, a semi-regular player on the Flames. I don't think anybody's pushing that hard to start the season other than maybe Poirier. But I still don't really see that.
Yeah, it's tough to say, right? He turns 22 in a couple of months, so it's not like he doesn't have more time to develop.
He's missed so much time, like
yeah.
And from what I gather, he struggled his first little bit coming back for the Wranglers, kind of sped up lately, but I don't know. I think we've got a fairly decent, prospect pool, but I think a lot of them are junior players, whether it be Lipinski and Honzek and Brustevich and all those guys. Like a lot of them are going to take another 2-3 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think the big push that's going to be coming out of the Wranglers is already there.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
For this guy here, Ryan, in my opinion, I would rather go with the Huberdeau, Zari, Sharangovich, and then keep Kuzmenko with Kadri. I'm comfortable with that. They've shown chemistry, but then we still get the Huberdeau, Kuzmenko, and Kadri on the power play, which they really look good together in that format with Sharangovich in there as well. So that'd be my opinion. Keep Zari there with Huberdeau and Sharangovich and have Kuzmenko on that second line.
I agree with that, and also I think Zari is already a better center than Sharangovich. Like Sharangovich was getting better, but he's kind of brutal on the faceoffs. He hasn't been the best defensively. I think Zari's just a much more dependable center, even though he's only played 6 games or whatever at center. I've been much more impressed with him than I have with Sharangovich's center, and Sharangovich has played by far his best hockey on the wing since coming over here. So that's my thought on that.
I agree.
Ryan's also asking, would you rather have Vanacek or Allen? That's your choices from New Jersey. Didn't they trade Vanacek?
Did they?
No? Okay, I could be wrong on that. Either way, I'd rather have Allen. Vanacek's Allen, first of all, has proven he's a fairly decent tandem goalie. And also I've heard lots of Habs fans kind of talk about how well he's brought Montembeault along and a couple of their other young goalies, Caden Primo and all those guys. as far as Wolf is concerned, I think he needs a mentor, and I don't think Vanacek, who quite frankly has been terrible, is the guy for that. I'd rather have Allen all day, every day.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, Ryan. There was a question about who gets traded outside of Markstrom, and I think Mangiapane was who I said. I can't remember who Chris said, but
I think we're agreed on that list. Two guys. Okay.
From what I hear, Matt, yes, they will be active in free agency. I'm not sure what that means. That could mean, they're going after fucking Sam Reinhart or someone who's going to ruin the rebuild. As exciting as that would be, whatever. But I think that if I were Conroy, I'd be going after guys who could help, who would be willing to take a short-term deal, who want to win now, so you can trade them at the deadline, pick up some guys, have a handshake deal, be like, you help us out for the next 4 or 5 months. We'll trade you to a contender at or before the deadline, and we'll get some more first or second round picks for you. No. That's what I want to see them do. What they're going to do, I've got no clue.
No, exactly. I think Greg's on board for a couple of seasons worth of just doing this right. It's just obviously, as we know, he potentially doesn't have a lot of pull against Murray Edwards pulling the strings from the rafters. It's
from the rafters or from Switzerland.
Yeah, same thing. Right? from a distance.
Yes.
He's proven to be the one deciding factor that has caused all this shit for being in that mushy middle for 20 years, right?
Yeah. KQ is asking same thing next year. I can't be any more patient, he's saying. Or she. I don't know if it's a he or she, but there you go. I'm saying yes, same thing next year.
Yeah, that's how rebuilds go. Minimal
and
3 years.
Possibly the next year as well.
Yeah, minimal 3 years.
I think at the end of the third year, they'll start to get better.
Yeah. Yeah, they potentially will make playoffs at the end of the third year, just in time for the new arena to be built, hopefully.
And Ryan, Matt is saying here as well, Vanacek went to San Jose for San Jose's goalie. I don't know why I can't remember which. It wasn't Blackwood, was it? I can't. No, I can't remember who it was who went, but he is right. He went to San Jose.
Want to do it? Especially when you consider what True did to this organization on his exit. Like, his last year was just an absolute disaster. I mean, Conroy has stayed true to his word, which is refreshing because we've had a lot of lip service in Calgary between True and Feaster. I would give him B+ to A-. I think his trades have been good. He's got decent return for the most part on all of them, especially being the club that everybody knew was going to be selling players. I respect his ability to pull off what he did out of Vancouver for Lindholm. I think that was an incredible return.
Absolutely nuts trade.
Yeah, right. And I wasn't super impressed with the whole Vegas scenario, but I mean, you can't win them all. So I easily give him a B+ and potentially can go as high as A-.
I don't know if it's a bias on my part because of how incredibly angry I will forever be with Tree Living. and how frankly bad he was the last 2 or 3 years he was in Calgary. And also knowing how Edwards can pull strings and how Craig seemed to have convinced him differently, I'm going A. I don't know. Maybe my bias will smarten me up or, whatever over the next year or so. But I think it's safe for me to say Craig's got an A from me this year. He's been way better than I expected. You can go back and watch our podcast from when we first heard Craig was getting the job, and I was like cautiously optimistic, but also I didn't think he was the guy for the job. I thought he was going to be super friendly with all the players, which he probably is, but I thought he was going to be friendly to the point of not being able to be cutthroat, not being able to make the tough decisions. And I think he really, really has proven me wrong on that, and I could not be any happier. He has been great.
Yeah. No, I agree. He had a really tough task ahead of him, with the expiring UFAs that we had going into the season. I mean, I didn't have a lot of faith in what he was going to be able to accomplish, but all said and done, the three major pieces that everybody knew had to be dealt with, whether it be contract or get him out the door and get some assets, which is something that Brad was obviously unable to do with what he built. Not only do we not get assets, we fucking gave away first round picks for a season of a contract just so we
Yeah.
had the money available to sign Kadri. Like, what a fucking disaster that summer was.
Yeah, it was just terrible. And even before that, with the being okay with letting Johnny not sign and not talk to him about not signing Kachuk long term, like he fucked the whole team up, and like you said in your comment there, Chad, Tree Living handed Conroy an absolute fucking apocalyptic level mess. And
it was bad.
I think he's done very good at righting the ship a little bit. A little bit of an inside joke. Matt's saying we should fire the coach. We talked about it earlier in our group chat.
Matt, get the Snickers, buddy. Get the Snickers. He's gonna go.
Snickers. No, honestly, like as far as I'm concerned, like Ryan Huska might not be the absolute best coach available or anything like that, but I think that seeing what happened this year and even what happened last year rolling into this year, and then seeing the team Huska was handed to start, the power play coach he was handed to start, and then slowly trading away several of his best players on a team that already wasn't very good. I think identifying Huska as a problem is dumb, honestly. I think that Huska's nowhere close to a problem that needs to be fixed at this state in the Flames competitive cycle. And I'm sure Edwards doesn't want to be paying even more coaches that he's already paying to not work for him.
No, I agree. I mean, Huska has a proven track record working with younger players. So I think, in reality, he's probably one of the better choices at the moment to continue on for a year or two with these young guys. He has history with some of the players in the AHL level. So, I'm not upset about what Huska did. Yes, he made some really weird decisions through the year. He's a rookie. He'll get over it. We'll all get over it. And I think he's going to be the guy on, for the next 2 years, I think. I would, barring something drastic. I think everybody needs to get used to him, and I think everything will be just fine. Because you're
Absolutely.
right, he's not the problem.
No. Um, I'm curious where you're from, Chad, but Chad's saying, as someone who's never been to Canada, what is the perceived idea that players don't want to play in Western Canada? Is this true or just the media? I don't think it's just Western Canada, Chad. There is a big problem with taxes as far as the amount of money, especially people who make millions of dollars get taken off of each one of their paychecks is freaking absurd. Um, Also, the weather throughout Canada can be very cold and miserable, specifically in Edmonton, Winnipeg, somewhat Calgary. The weather can just be fucking brutal. Um, and it's a pressure cooker. Like the pressure for players to play in Canada, um, like there's a couple other sports, but like hockey's the main sport here in Canada, and the media and the way the fans act, like put me in there too, right? Like players just probably don't always like all that. Some of them thrive with it, but some of them hate it. You're from
Yeah,
Vegas.
they want
That's cool, man.
to. The you're right. It's the people on the street, they can't go out without people recognizing them, which is different than some of the cities down in the States where they could probably even introduce themselves with their full name, and some wouldn't know who they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. The taxes are terrible. The travel in the West can be pretty brutal sometimes. There's so many different factors.
Matt here is from Winnipeg. Well, just outside Winnipeg, as he really likes to say. He's I don't know why people don't like Winnipeg. You just freeze to death all winter, and it gets so hot outside in the summer you can't even breathe. I don't know what it's like.
It's the mosquitoes the size of birds, right? Welcome to Winnipeg, land of lakes. Damn it, is that another bug?
Chad, are you saying you remember Vegas drafting players from Canada? Has Vegas ever had a draft pick that they've used, or?
13 players, really?
So, and that's something too, like Hannafin, there was something that was mentioned a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago when Hannafin signed that he signed for like a little bit less than he was offered in Calgary, but his take home money that he actually takes home is like $1.5 million more than it would have been with the higher AAV that he was being offered in Calgary. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, for that stuff, it's a no-brainer, right? Especially when you start getting into states that don't pay income tax, stuff like that. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah,
That's huge.
now there's the bunch of workarounds with that, with signing bonuses and stuff like that. I listened to a really interesting podcast a couple months ago on certain players who are from the States, like Austin Matthews, for instance. He resides in the States, so his signing bonuses are actually paid off in the state where he lives and not in the state where he works. So
That's interesting.
his actual, I believe his actual like average, or sorry, not his actual contract value is less than $1 million a year, but his signing bonus is like 11 million a year, and that's all paid off in I think Arizona state tax and not in Toronto, in Ontario provincial tax. So
yeah,
you can get around it, but only like the really high profile players usually do. I just want to take a second to thank everybody for coming in and following us all season or forever, how long you have been following us. Lots and lots of comments here today. It's been really nice to see. Would really appreciate you hammering that like button and subscribing to us. It's been awesome to have so many people in here. We love the engagement and we love answering questions. I'd like to get more post game shows next year than we did this year. It was something we just decided to start trying this year, and it seemed to be working out pretty good so far. So there's lots of competition out there with maybe I shouldn't say the names of them or whatever, but I think everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Should we do it? I think so.
What are your thoughts on them moving to Salt Lake? It's not possible. It's happening. It's done. It's
it's already done. My thoughts on that, not necessarily being Salt Lake, that part I think is kind of irrelevant in the deal. They should have moved the Coyotes out of Arizona a decade ago. They've been bleeding money for way too long.
They've been bleeding money. They've been a burden on the league, honestly. And I want to say something like, it sucks. It sucks for the fans. It sucks for the people who are, working in the arena, ticket sales people, all those types of people. It really sucks. A lot of people are going to have to uproot their lives. Other people are going to have to find new jobs, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it really sucks. And I feel bad for those people, but the ownership is at fault. The ownership really did not do its due diligence trying to get an arena in a spot where people could get to easily. And any fan base that they had, from what I gather, would have had to travel way too far just to get to a game and then get back to the city. Add to that the embarrassment they've had with fucking up draft combines, losing draft picks because of it, being the laughing stock of the league. Every time a player is on long-term injury reserve for the rest of their career, they just end up going to Arizona. Fucking, I think Pavel Datsyuk, Shea Weber, like all these players who, are injured to the point of never being able to play again. They just go to Arizona, but they're basically like laundering money, and somehow
that's exactly what I was
any money
say.
off. It's absurd.
And
it sucks, but it's time. It's been time for well over a decade, like Chris was saying.
I think it's definitely the case, right? I mean, I've always considered it to be Gary Bettman's money laundering system that he's just doing out in the public while everybody watches it,
and everybody knew.
They couldn't even sell out their 4,600 seat arena, so they have no business playing in Arizona. It's unfortunate. There's just not a market there.
Like
there's a great market for Canadians that travel down there in the winter months. You go to the game. There's more Flames jerseys than there are Coyotes jersey or Oiler jerseys or whatever. And it's good for that, but that's it. Other than that, there's just no reason to have a franchise in Arizona at all, because it's not their sport.
Like you said, like there was a 5,000 seat arena in there that they couldn't fill, even though it's on a college campus, and you'd figure a bunch of college kids would love to go see some games and get hammered, right? Salt Lake or Utah or whatever the fuck you want to call them, at one point today, the first day they had season tickets available, they sold 11,000. That's well over twice as many seats as the arena in ASU in Arizona State could even hold. So, and just to wrap that up, one thing I really don't like about the deal is that they're giving Alex Murillo the chance to get the Coyotes back within 5 years. I get holding the name for a possible future expansion. Maybe I could get on board with that, but giving that fucking guy another chance is just next level stupidity to me. I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I know. I agree. And even without him being the guy, if he does finally get his shit together and in 4 years and brings a franchise back there, to me, it's the same as trying to do it again in Atlanta. They've done it. It didn't work. Move on.
Yeah. What was that comment you were putting up? Was that how do you think they'll do in Atlanta?
In Utah.
Yeah, in Utah. Sorry.
Yeah.
How do you think they'll do in Utah? Well, they've already sold 11,000. More than that now, but they've already sold 11,000 season tickets. And from what Ryan Smith, the guy who owns the team now, has been saying, he wants to spend the money to make the team good. He wants to spend the money to make the arena hockey accessible. So I think it's going to surprise a lot of people how well they do, and I would not be at all surprised to see them in the playoffs and winning around here in the next year or two. I think they'll do fine. I think they'll do just fine.
Yeah, I think they'll be semi-competitive in the next couple of years as well. I don't think they're winning the cup, but it wouldn't surprise me next year or the year after to see them playing in round one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. They've got a really nice nucleus of young players.
Yeah.
Quite impressive, honestly.
Yeah, they do.
It's just too bad that their owner wasn't willing to do what it took to make it work.
Yeah. Yep, I agree 100%.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm exhausted. It's probably time for me to go to bed here, but I just wanted to say it's been a great season. Like I said, thank you all for joining in. Thanks for engaging on the comment section here. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, everybody.
Yeah. Cheers, go Flames, go, and let's hope, like Matt keeps saying, let's hope we can get another top 10 pick. I highly doubt it, but if not, let's hope we can draft well over the next 2 or 3 years and come out of it looking somewhat like the Dallas Stars after they went through a 2 or 3 year little retool and came out looking like a really, really good hockey team.
I knew you couldn't make it through this episode without saying Dallas.
Yeah, well, they're my pick for the cup, so.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, thanks for joining, everybody. Smash that like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Till the next show. See you again. Go Flames.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.